awaits new quarantine instructions. The World Bank forecasts that the local economy will take a while to recover, ending the year with a 1.9% contraction before bouncing back in 2021. What lies ahead for the economy should it remain under GCQ, where several sectors operate under a limited capacity? Let's find out from Euben Paracuelles, Chief ASEAN Economist at Japanese investment bank Nomura. He joins us now from Singapore. Euben, thank you so much for joining us. Metro Manila and many other provinces are still under the general community quarantine. Can this help in the recovery of the economy? Because a lot of people are out of jobs.
Yeah, that's really the idea, Rico, to move to less restrictive measures, restart the economy, allow businesses to reopen. So I think by the time we get to the third quarter, especially because the second quarter took a really severe hit because of the lockdowns, I think we'll probably see slightly better GDP growth numbers by then. The bigger question really to ask is how sustainable that recovery will be. And I think that will ultimately depend on how fast the government can put under control the local COVID-19 outbreak.
All right. According to President Duterte, until we don't really have a vaccine, he will not really open up the economy. But at this point, with some pending bills in Congress for a more than 1.3 trillion peso stimulus package, corporate rates being reduced from 30 to 20%, could this help the economy rise from a potential technical recession, which is 2 consecutive quarters of contraction?
Yeah, we're probably going to hit recession already in the second quarter by that definition. And as I said before, the hit is quite severe. And therefore, that would require a lot of help from the government, the use of fiscal firepower to really prop up and reignite the economy. I think the problem, though, is Congress has not really passed any of the stimulus bills. And I would argue that these bills are actually very urgently needed. You saw the unemployment numbers. There's a lot of people that have lost their jobs, you know, whether it's temporary or permanent, but these people need a lot of help. And, you know, companies and SMEs in particular need quite a bit of assistance. And I think that assistance has been due for a while now.
Okay, so a lot of pending bills to stimulate the economy in Congress, which is now in recess, and they will only resume towards the end of July. But what about, you mentioned about the fiscal incentives from the government and the deep interest rate cuts from the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. Could this help the economy, or do they still need to cut rates even further? And is there still room for further rate cuts?
Yeah, I think there's room for both fiscal and monetary policy to continue to be supportive of the economy. So we talked about fiscal policy. I think that's being processed and pending in Congress. In the meantime, I think the central bank has already been very active in trying to provide a lot of relief measures, credit access, and all those things. And I think they have room to do more. So interest rate cuts, I think, is one of the policy options that they can consider and they can implement fairly quickly. I think there's a meeting towards the end of June. I'm expecting the central bank to actually cut rates further.
So hopefully monetary plus fiscal incentives will help the Philippine economy by the third or the fourth quarter. But Euben, there's also a lot of concern about the growing debt levels of the country. They're now at over $6.5 billion from loans and grants. Could this stifle economic growth because a large chunk of the budget will be allotted to repaying debt?
Yeah, I think it's not quite an issue yet in the short run. So if you take as a proportion of the economy, the total debt level, it's still relatively low at around 40%. So that's, if you compare with other countries, that's fairly favorable. So I think there is quite a bit of room for them to increase that a little bit to be able to provide more support to the economy. I think the important thing really is to sustain the economic recovery because that's what's going to allow the country to improve its ability to repay the debt over the medium term, right? So the recovery has to happen first, and it has to be sustained.
And briefly, before we let you go, what is Nomura's full-year forecast for the Philippine economy?
Yeah, so for this year, we've got a bigger contraction than the World Bank. We have minus 4.8. But for next year, we have a rebound to 8.1. So it's quite a bit of an improvement. But again, the condition there is the virus is put under control as soon as possible, and fiscal authorities provide bigger fiscal support.
Thank you so much for your insights on the Philippine economy. Euben Paracuelles from Nomura, joining us live from Singapore.